I had just lost my job as the vice president of a digital marketing company, kind of figuring out what I was going to do. I was on deck to do a lunch and learn at City Club here in Raleigh on AI because I had been using it to write content and do branding exercises and promote some of the companies that we were working with. And I was asked, do you still want to do this? You're not worth the company anymore. And I said, yeah, I'll still do it because everybody needs to learn how to use AI. And it's really a game changer for a lot of the stuff that I've been doing. And so on the 15th of March last year, I did a lunch and learn, and typically City Club would have between maybe 10 and 15 people at their lunch and learns. We had 40 people sign up. They had to cut registration off at 40 people because they couldn't feed 40 people lunch all arriving at the same time. And after I finished with the lunch and learn, I had a woman who worked for a recruiting company who was looking to help place me in another, executive level marketing position with another company, said, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to find you another job. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? And she said, nothing. You need to do this. I'm part of a group called Triangle Mastermind, and we're doing our first quarterly leadership conference, which is on business strategy, utilizing a particular book that one of our members suggested. And so I've been like all day going through this book and trying to absorb the strategy and put all that stuff together because I'm going to teach them how to actually do a strategic analysis using AI, but I also need to use the components of this particular management theory. Life is fun. This time last year, I had just lost my job as the vice president of a digital marketing company, kind of figuring out what I was going to do. I was on deck to do a lunch and learn at City Club here in Raleigh on AI because I had been using it to write content and do branding exercises and promote some of the companies that we were working with. And I was asked, do you still want to do this? You're not worth the company anymore. And I said, yeah, I'll still do it because everybody needs to learn how to use AI. And it's really a game changer for a lot of the stuff that I've been doing. And so on the 15th of March last year, I did a lunch and learn, and typically City Club would have between maybe 10 and 15 people at their lunch and learns. We had 40 people sign up. They had to cut registration off at 40 people because they couldn't feed 40 people lunch all arriving at the same time. And after I finished with the lunch and learn, I had a woman who worked for a recruiting company who was looking to help place me in another, executive level marketing position with another company, said, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to find you another job. And I'm like, what did I do wrong? And she said, nothing. You need to do this.
Yeah.
You need to teach people how to use AI. She goes, I've never seen you so happy. I've never seen you engaged and animated. And if you don't do this, you're doing yourself a disservice. So I talked to my partner about it, and he was like, I'll support you in anything you want to do. So I jumped off the cliff, and here I am. And in the meantime, we did Triangle Women's Mastermind also. I mean, it's like everything kind of came together at one time. It was just kind of really cool.
That is very cool how it naturally progressed into something full circle for you. What were your thoughts in the moment when your colleague said to you, I see a bigger vision for you than just working for someone else's company?
Well, so I've been in marketing and business development for 40 years. And I've had people say to me, you ought to open your own agency, your own marketing agency, and I'm just kind of like, I don't think I want to work that hard, because I got my start in DC and I was working 18 hours a day, 7 days a week. And the woman that I worked for was probably working more hours than that. And I was just like, I don't want to have to chase people for money. I don't want to have to, worry about where my next client is coming. I don't want to have to go through all of that. I don't like numbers. I don't like bookkeeping. I don't like all of those things. And when you're doing marketing, and especially in the digital age, you really have to rely on the metrics to tell you, are people being, are they engaged? How many impressions are things getting? Is it getting the distribution that you want? It's a whole lot of metrics involved. And that's just not where I live. It's not where I want to live. I want to do, the content creation. I want to work with the customers. I like the networking. I love going out and playing golf with potential customers, but I don't want to sit in the back office and analyze numbers all day. it's just not what I want to be doing. And I also don't want to constantly be having to worry about, where my next client is coming from. It's just not, I've done the business development on commission. I've done, like I said, the marketing, and it's just too much of a grind. Work should
It is a
be
grind.
a grind. And
Yeah.
I've been grinding for 40 years and I'm tired.
Yeah, that all of the admin, back office, marketing, just those things that maintain the business and then also help you scale are very tedious. So I think it's amazing that you've mastered the skill of outsourcing that through digital tools like AI. And when will I have time to kind of fit in seeking more knowledge on how I can streamline some things and add some systems to my business that can help me scale and maintain using AI?
The thing you have to be careful of is AI is a tool. It's not the answer.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I teach. But there are people out there. I attended a webinar recently, actually two. And one of them, the guy was like, and let's go over all these AI tools. And he threw out, I don't know, 30 to 50 AI tools, and they all do different things. And yeah, you could use this for this. And by the time everything is said and done, you could have hired a full-time employee to do all of the things that you've got AI doing, because you're having to pay for all 30 different platforms. And you don't need all of that, right?
Yeah.
You don't. And then there was another webinar that I went to, and the guy was like, lead generation, I'll teach you how to blah. Bottom line was he was selling chatbots, right? So he wanted you to buy his chatbot platform and then resell white label his stuff and resell it to other clients, and you would make money off of that. There's a whole lot of that going on out there. You know what I mean? And basically what I teach people to do is I teach people to use AI for marketing and to create integrated marketing campaigns, things where one thing relies on another. Do you need a CRM? Yes. Will there be some AI in that CRM? Yes, because you want a CRM that's got automations where you can go in and you can schedule your emails and create tracks and do A/B testing with your emails and all that other kind of stuff. But that's an AI within your CRM platform. So if you're looking for a CRM, get one that has that automation component to it and that allows for A/B testing. That's a no-brainer. That's real simple. And they have CRMs that are like $0 to use up to $5,000 a month to use, just depending on what your needs are.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but I use ChatGPT, the paid version of ChatGPT, to do all of my, long form art, all my long form blog posts and articles. And from there flow the emails for email campaigns. And then I also do social media platforms, and the social media is tailored to each individual platform. Plus it's tailored and segmented by client avatars and target audience. So, and I've told the people that have been in my NASDAQ circle several times, because they're like, I need to create my perfect client avatar. And I'm like, that's your first mistake. And they're like, well, what do you mean? You don't have a client avatar. You have multiple client avatars. Like one person is a healthcare or a mental health care person, therapist. And I'm like, you don't have one client avatar. You have two main categories. The first is going to be clients, which are speaking directly to the people that might need that mental health assistance. And the other are going to be referring partners. And they have very different messaging and very different vehicles by which to get them in. Underneath of those two mainline categories, you've also got generational avatars. So you've got boomers, you've got Gen X, you've got millennials, and you've got Gen Z. And each one of them are going to have their own consumer triggers, or they're going to have their own things that matter to them, that messaging that's going to resonate with them. AI can help you parse out all of that within one set of messaging. Here's my perfect message. Now I want you to modify that message for consumers. Now I want you to modify it for my referring partners. And then to go a little bit further, now that you've got those two main categories, now I want you to modify it even further to meet all of the 4 generational avatars that I may have under those headings. So you don't have just one client avatar. You've got potentially 8. And AI can help tailor the messaging to all of those client avatars.
That is like so savvy and brilliant. And when you were speaking about how some people are just teaching these really outlandish and like roundabout ways of using AI, when you can simplify it and just get straight to the point and get what you need to
absolutely
to help your business streamline. And so, I think that's what deterred me from seeking more information right now and kind of prioritize other things. It's a little overwhelming if you're not familiar with, all 30 or 40 or 50 or 100 different apps.
And that's just it. Everybody's out there trying to sell you an app. They're trying to sell you. I mean, they've monetized it. So it's about making money. So I use ChatGPT and I use it for everything at this point because it's multimodal. It's one of the few that are what are in the industry called multimodal. People will tell you Perplexity is better for research. Do you know why they say Perplexity is better for research? They say Perplexity is better for research because Perplexity will give you links back to the source documents. You can narrow where you want it to find data and information. Well, guess what? You can set ChatGPT up to do the same damn thing, right? All you have to do is in the customization panel, say, I always want, when you're providing me with source, like quotes, statistics, or data, I want viable links back to the source material. So that way you can check those links, check the data and source material that it's providing you with, and make sure that it's in context, make sure that it's quoted correctly. And so it works just as well as Perplexity. You can also tell it, say, for example, you were doing research on underprivileged communities in and around Washington, D.C. Okay. Yeah. And you go, okay, fine, we can do that. And the information that you're getting back, you're not getting a lot of really good information because the information is coming from Harvard, Clemson, Princeton, Yale. You can literally say, I only want data on economically challenged communities of
Wow.
Because they're going to have more insight into those communities than these traditionally who typically only have people there that make a lot of money, their legacies, they're this, they're that, they're the other thing. So you can literally say in this particular area. So you can tell it where you want to get your information from. I don't want it from blog posts. I don't want it from social media. Unless I ask for it, I typically want it from .edus, .gov, tech, whatever. Traditional, not necessarily traditional, but recognized authorities in research and education in this particular area or whatever. Yeah. So you can do that. Now, can it also analyze data? Absolutely. I had a client last week, called me in a panic. It's like, I got to get this stuff ready for my accountant. Can you help me? I have six rental properties, 3 different management companies, and I have 12 statements for each one of these rental properties from each one of these pieces. And I have to get all this stuff together. I showed him how to basically take all that data, put it into ChatGPT and create one matrix with the name of with the address of the property, the name of the management company, the management fees, the taxes that are being paid, the maintenance and improvements that he's invested in over the course of the year, anything that might be related to costs from those properties, put it all into one spreadsheet, and he was able to then turn that over to his accountant and reduce the amount of time and money that he was spending on his accountant because his accountant had it all in one spreadsheet rather than having to go through and find all of that data and put it on a spreadsheet.
So really with ChatGPT, what it boils down to is the business owner or the user of the software knowing what specific questions to specifically target the solutions that they're looking for.
You have to know what you want. That's the very first step that I teach is know the deliverable that you want. Know what it is you want to get out of it. Now, will you have to modify it as you're kind of going through? Yes, probably. But the other thing I want you to think about, don't necessarily think about it as software. Think about it as an executive assistant. Like when I'm in class, I urge people to name their GPT, right? So mine's name is Roby. So if I go into my ChatGPT, I'm like, hey, good morning, Roby, how's it going? And Roby says, hey, Kel, how you doing? Everything's great. What are we working on today? Wow. The more conversational you are with it and the more polite you are to it, the better your results are going to be. Because remember, this is a natural language processing program. So the more natural language you use with it, the better it's going to be with you. And there's a certain amount of customization you have to make in order for it to create deliverables that talk in your voice and do various things. But that's part of what I train. That's part of how I teach people to use it. I work in that space between your belly button and the keyboard to give you better outcomes, to actually educate users, not programmers, not developers, but actual users, into how to get good quality results out of using ChatGPT. And if you decide at some point to go to Copilot or Gemini or Perplexity or another one, all of the things that I'm teaching you are literally transportable to any other AI platform.
How do you decide what you need to delegate and then what you need to keep as a task or a priority for you, or like an actual human being, like a person?
Redundant tasks, like if you're creating content every month to put out on your website or on social media or through email campaigns, it can help you with that. If you wanted to say to ChatGPT, say, I want to interview this person, right? Here's her website. Here's what her website says. Here's some stuff that's, other publicly available out on the internet. Here's her social media account. Review these things for me and come up with a list of likely questions. It can do that.
That is brilliant.
See, I should get paid for this.
Okay, audience, if you're watching, look, you need to streamline some systems into your business. You need to be contacting Kellie to learn these
There
things.
you go. See, it's a phenomenal tool, right? But don't put anything that's privately identifiable information into any AI system.
Okay.
And part of the reason, again, that I use ChatGPT is I feel it's more secure because it only works with the data you give it and the data that's publicly available on the internet. Whereas some of the other ones, once you introduce it to your networked environment, it becomes part of your overall system. Like Copilot, it then has access to all the Microsoft products in your suite. If you're a Microsoft, shop, using Google Gemini, same thing. If you're a Google shop and you're using Google Docs and Google Files and Google Cloud, it then has access to all of those Google branded items. So ChatGPT, it works right in the window on your computer, and it only works with the data that you provide it. So if you're not providing it with sensitive data, then it's not going to work with that sensitive data. You don't have to worry about it finding it on your computer and making it available to other people. With ChatGPT, you can also turn off its ability to feed the larger language model. So there's like a little toggle there that you can turn that off. And so all of your data stays right there. And when you get rid of it, it's gone. So anything can get hacked, and OpenAI and ChatGPT can get hacked just like anything else. But I just feel, especially for somebody that's just making an entrance into this area, that it's a decent entry point, right? It's multimodal, so it can do spreadsheets, it can do content creation, it understands the differences between the various platforms, it can create scripts, it can review websites and pull out information from websites, it can keyword for you. Do you ever have to create metadata for any of the stuff that you're doing before you post it? So a metadata tag is like when you create a blog post and you go to post it on your website, it'll ask you for a metadata tag. The metadata tag is the 160 character kind of blurb that comes up when you do a Google search. When you do a Google search, it doesn't actually give you the website. It gives you this little snippet, right? Sometimes the snippets are complete. Sometimes it cuts off in the middle. The ones that cut off in the middle have no metadata tag, and it's just pulling like the first sentence or two from somebody's website and putting it up there, and it cuts it off after 160 characters. AI is brilliant at creating, like, say, here's my blog post, and it might be 1,500 words. I want an intriguing and interesting metadata tag that's designed for click-through, and it needs to be limited to 160 characters to meet the Google algorithm. Boom, it's done. 160 characters, you post it, it's done.
That is brilliant, because that uses that as an opportunity for leads, for more clicks, and for, what AI governance sort of strides and improvements have you seen over these past years since being in AI and like mastering it? So guys, we're going to get right back to this talk. But first, I want to talk to you about the fact that I have had in-depth conversations with over 100 successful entrepreneurs within the last 8 months. And the one common factor between all of these entrepreneurs is that they could use more funding and more revenue and creative solutions to bring more cash flow into their business. Well, I decided to host a masterclass Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern. You can meet up with me where I am teaching entrepreneurs, professionals, and those who want to transition out of their 9-to-5 or whatever type of mundane and boring work that you do in order to do something more fulfilling. I want you to learn how to start, scale, and revive your business fully funded, debt-free. I have pulled together over $100 million in resources, and I'm going to share my findings with you. There are grants, there are sponsorships, There are partnerships, collaborations. I'm glad you all are enjoying this talk with this amazing entrepreneur and getting a lot of gems. We'll get right back to the talk. However, I want to share something amazing with you that I'm doing, and you are cordially invited. On Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, I am hosting masterclasses where you get a guide as well. And we are learning how to fund your venture totally debt free up to $1 million in funding in 12 weeks or less. We are going to take an in-depth look into where the funding is, what corporations or organizations are giving it away, which industries are making that money. And we're going to specifically work together to fund our ventures. One of my elite business solutions clients challenged me to find her over $1 million in 90 days. And I'm bringing you all along in the process with me because I want to see more than just one person access this money. With all of the success that I have experienced and all of the knowledge that I have gained from these talks with over 100 successful entrepreneurs within the last 8 months, I want to share that information with you, but you have to get in the masterclass and see what the masterclass is all about. You can click the link in the description. You deserve to be able to fully fund your venture and transition out of that boring, mundane job that you don't want to do. You shouldn't have to burn through your cash. You shouldn't have to go into more debt, and you don't have to pull out that second mortgage on your house or sell off the things that you love. There are so many different resources, and I can't wait to share the information with you. So I'll see you in the masterclass. And remember, click the link. And now we're going to return to our talk. Thanks for watching Self-Care Your Way to Success podcast. All right, let's get back to the talk.
So that's a good question because there really aren't any governing bodies right now over AI. There's no regulations around it or anything like that. So and that's another class that I teach with another company called Two Dog Digital. They're an MSP provider and they're really good at what they do. So they partner with ByteKraft Workshops, which is my company, and we provide corporate governance classes, and they're 3 to 4 hours. And we bring in CEOs, CTOs, and COs to sit down and discuss the things that they need to consider before they allow the implementation of AI into their workspaces. Because as I said, if somebody brings Copilot to work, it now has access to your network. Okay. If your computers aren't locked down and it doesn't keep people from adding stuff to it, if they say, yeah, let's enable Copilot now has access to the world unless things are locked down, unless they're siloed, unless they're password protected. And that could cause real problems, especially when it comes to HR files, when it comes to proprietary, let's say, finance information or what have you. And so you have to be very careful. And one of the things that we teach is you need to consider policies and procedures that make sense around AI usage in your corporate environment. And those things need to be reviewed at a bare minimum every 6 months, but ideally quarterly, because the industry is changing so quickly that having your IT department and then, like, say, a committee for the responsible use of AI or something like that within your organization, where you've got representatives from a lot of the different divisions within your organization that can sit down and actually make sense of what and who is allowed to use AI for what tasks and things like that. Having some of your, let's say, your frontline employees, the ones that are actually doing the work and performing the job, it's important to have them there too, because they're the ones who are going to understand what redundant tasks and what data heavy tasks that they perform on a day-to-day basis that you could use AI tools for. But they need to understand the security implications of adding certain data to it. And so some of those things, like, say, for example, you want AI to do an analysis of project management within your organization, like how often we've met deadlines, how often we're over budget, what jobs are more profitable for our business and things like that. And you could use that using your CRM or your project management software, or if it's both. The key to that is anonymizing your client name and the project. So instead of XYZ Corporation, you call it the Happy Corporation, or the next one could be the Blue Corporation, or the next one could be, the, Smiley Law Firm, or whatever it is that you're doing. And you can come up with, you can even use client numbers, client number, this year's 25. So it'd be like 2535 is today, if today is the acquisition date of that client, right? So when they come up in your client sheet, their name is here, their client number is here, and maybe the code name of the project is over here. And then you lock down those sheets by only allowing the exportation of the client number, the project code name, and then the numbers and things associated with that, so that the AI can actually do the data analysis. But you never want to put in the client name, the project name, things like that, because again, you don't always know where this information is going. And just to be on the side, you want to make sure that you've got things in a way that if somebody else were to get a hold of that data, they would not then know who your client or what the project is that you're talking about. They would just see numbers. I use the example of AI is like the difference between a screwdriver and a battery operated screw gun. Okay.
Yeah. That's a great analogy.
You can do the same thing with both tools, right? You can do some damage with a screwdriver if you're trying to do, if you're trying to screw in a Phillips head screw with a slot head screwdriver, you're going to strip out that screw and it's not going to be good. You can do it a lot faster with a screw gun. And at the end of the day, both of those tools laying on a table are really interesting paperweights without a human being behind them using them properly, right? So it's right. And the other thing that I think is of paramount importance is training your employees. Don't tell them to go to YouTube and learn about AI, because it's not necessarily responsible AI use. And the difference between like the way I'm teaching organizations and people, because I have taught organizations, I've also done workshops for trade organizations and things like that, is I have 40 years of experience in marketing and business development. I bring that knowledge to the effective use of AI and the way for people to apply it in those scenarios. So the classes that I do are integrated marketing campaigns. I teach people how to do effective grant writing with it. I also teach a class on RFP, RFI, RFQ response writing. And then there's the corporate governance piece. And then I also do custom workshops like I did with the gentleman who called me and says, I have all of these, I have all this data that I need to get to my accountant. How do I do that quickly? And can I use AI to do this? And so I know how to, there are a lot of people out there that are saying, you can do all these fun things with AI. And they tell you what can be done, but they don't teach you how to apply those skills. And the very important thing that I like to tell organizations is make sure that you are upskilling your legacy employees. You can bring in a bunch of young people, and young people will catch on to this stuff just like that. In some cases, they may already be using it. Are they using it effectively? Who knows, right? But the bottom line is your legacy employees probably know more about your company and have forgotten more about your company than these young people will ever learn. It may take them a little bit of time to adapt and to effectively use this new technology, but they know your business better than anybody else. And they've been with you for years, and they know, in some cases, they've worked their way from like the mailroom, up to the vice presidential suite or what have you. And so they know the ins and outs of your organization, in some cases, probably even better than you do, because they've been on the front lines at multiple layers. And so it's important to hang on to those legacy employees, because if something happens to them, institutional knowledge goes out the door with them.
Yeah.
And so it's important to train them, because the institutional knowledge that they have is invaluable to your organization and to the longevity of your organization, which isn't to say this is the way we've always done it and this is the way we're going to continue to do it. They may be able to find applications for AI that management has never even thought of, that some of the young people don't even realize is possible, because again, they don't know some of the tasks that need to be done in order to accomplish certain things at a certain level. So that's the only thing I would really urge, when it comes to security and adaptation of AI, is make sure that you've consulted with somebody who's familiar with AI before you institute it, to come up with really decent policies and procedures. And then make sure that you're training all of your people from the top down. If your executive management doesn't know what's possible with AI, then they also don't know the limitations of AI. And so it's important for them to know. And then it's important for all of your people to know. And it's not enough to have somebody in your organization training the new people coming in. You should have an onboarding process where those new people are being trained in the same way that the other people that are there are trained, so that everybody's kind of using things in the same way. And even if you adapt the way that you're using it and you evolve it, because it will evolve over time, everybody's starting from the same kind of benchmark and from the same level. And honestly, classes that I taught 6 months ago, I've added to those classes as new things happen and as the technology evolves. So it's just a matter of really assessing what you want to do with it, how you want it to work within your organization. And really, until you learn it, you're never going to know those things other than people just saying so. The most rewarding thing for me about what it is that I do is sitting in a room full of people as I'm teaching, and we're going through the hands-on portion of the workshop, and they're starting to actually create these things. Yeah. And the light bulbs start coming on. You can just see it, right? They're like, oh my gosh, I can do that. Hey, can I do? Yes, you can. You know what I mean? So it's a different way of thinking about creating. It's a different way of thinking about processes. It's a different way of thinking about how do I get from here to there. I literally have people call me up and say, I was thinking about this. And I'm like, okay, what is your question? Well, the question is this. If you can ask me the question, you can ask AI the question.
That has to be amazing to watch people go through that.
Absolutely phenomenal. I have one of my clients, she's in her 70s. She's still working. She hates computers. And she uses it now to write a lot of her emails, not because she needs it to write her emails, but because it saves her a lot of time. Here's what I want you to consider, especially in the marketing space. I graduated from college back in the Stone Age before computers. And, there was radio, television, newspaper, billboards, bus signs, signage and brochures and pamphlets and all that kind of stuff. Marketing people are still doing the same job that they were doing back then, but now they have 10 times the distribution channels and 10 times the distribution methods that they had back then. So in a lot of cases, the job description hasn't changed, the pay structure hasn't really changed, the skills and the tasks have changed. And so here you had a marketing person that was only doing, radio, television, newspaper, we'll do a brochure, we'll do this, we'll do that. Now they're having to do blogging, website development, emails, email campaigns, structured email campaigns, drip campaigns, conversion campaigns, and then they're doing Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Mastodon, this one, that one, the other one. So they're having to do all of these things, and they all have different requirements from the kind of material that's pushed out. Think about that. If I've got 10 times the amount of work, but still only have the same number of hours in a day.
That's crazy.
So AI can help you regain some of that time back. When I was at the marketing agency, I was doing campaigns on a quarterly basis. So I would do all of the stuff I would need to do to push out a piece of campaign strategy for the quarter. I would do 3 months at a clip, just like that. And it worked really well for me because it allowed me to get that stuff out, get it all done in one whack. We get it all done and we get it scheduled. And then we have time to sit and look at the metrics. And if something isn't working, we have the time for deeper thought and more in-depth processes to try to figure out why it isn't working and how we can then modify that strategy so that it does work effectively for that client. Whereas if I'm still on the hamster wheel of creating content every week or every day or what have you, there's not enough space in my head to actually sit down and think long-term why something's not working properly.
Yeah.
You can make little modifications, but you don't have time to actually stop and pivot an entire campaign on one platform so that it gains a wider audience or gets more engagement or what have you. That's why I think AI is important, because it actually helps you to regain time, create your content in bulk to the point where the messaging is integrated and cohesive across multiple channels, and then you can get it done and structured and all scheduled and everything using a scheduler or whatever it is that you want to use, and then sit back for a month and say, okay, let's take a look at this. Let's take a look at, what the results are. And you can get off into the weeds about that. Whereas if I'm sitting here going, okay, I got to come up with another post for today, or I got to have another blog post for next week, you're constantly on a hamster wheel and you're constantly stressed about what am I going to write about this week?
Absolutely. You don't really have time for that long range thought, for future planning, for implementing.
But to shorten and streamline the process by which they apply for that funding. If it takes me 2 months to put together a grant response without using AI, and I can get the same amount of work done in a couple of hours, how many more grants do you think I can apply for?
If it 10x is the probability of getting a yes, like getting approved for the grant, but it also 10x is the probability of companies reaching their funding goals.
Right.
So they have more opportunities at their fingertips.
Absolutely. And I cannot begin to tell you how more efficient and effective utilizing AI to align your organization, your nonprofit organization's goals and capabilities with the funding organization and the funding organization's 1, 3, and 5-year plans is just absolutely amazing. The capabilities and the opportunities for you to create those alignments and create those synergies make all the difference in the world.
I love what you're doing for businesses and how you're getting people into a futuristic and advanced mindset on how to maintain and grow their business. But it also is bridging a gap between generations, because speaking about having those seasoned professionals who have that time with a company or within a niche of expertise, and they can bring that to AI and help AI come up with even more valuable and useful solutions, you know, based on their knowledge, their wealth of knowledge over the years. Had any conversations with anyone who could just go that in depth on explaining the relativity of using AI, what changes it's making?
So if you're interested in taking a class, please feel free to, reach out to me and, we can chat further.
I am pretty sure that the audience, everyone watching, everyone who will see this is going to say, how can I get connected with Kellie and how can I learn more about AI?
So my name is Kellie Bradley with an IE, and I'm on LinkedIn as Kellie Bradley, and my company name is ByteKraft Workshops, ByteKraft Workshops. And I teach people how to use generative AI in the space between your belly button and the keyboard. So I really focus on the user, not on the programmer or the developer. I also help with setting up corporate policies and procedures for organizations that want to implement AI into their workspace. You can get a hold of me through my email, and that's Kellie, KELLIE, at B as in boy, Michael, MIKEL.com. Our website is bbmichael.com. Same thing, B as in boy, MIKEL.com. And my portion of it is under the page heading, How We Educate.
Well, I hope you connect with a lot of people, bringing in AI and connecting businesses with more knowledge to help them grow. Kellie, I just want to thank you so much for your time today.
Well, and thank you so much for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Have a great night.
You too. Take care.